Once away, I can't compete with them, right? You want to focus on this right now. So test review or test checklist. Test is on Tuesday, right? October 17th. So it's second period for you. I want to just briefly mention, right, there's your general form versus descriptive or vertex form. Okay. And how can you distinguish? Let me just focus once. There you go. That's kind of like what our morning looks like, right? It's blurry at first. There. Now we're done. So general form, we just know that it will look like this. And it will give you, right? The A here determines two things. Direction of opening, right? Opening up / down. You should know positive versus negative, right? It also gives us the width of the curve. We can predict how far apart the x-intercepts will be, right, based on that. And this gives you your y-intercept. That gives you a y-intercept. So that's what it does, right? It gives us a bunch of information. Vertex form on the other side looks like this. And A still does the same thing, right? Opening up or down still gives us the width, nothing changes there. But you can, from it, just say, hey, what's your vertex, right? And you should be able to just change the sign. So if H is positive there, it will go negative H, right? Okay. So that is saying switch sign from equation. That's what that does. EQN, okay, just for short. And look this up. This is at the beginning. To find the y-intercept, you can do it manually. You can actually like let x equals 0 and then algebraically figure out what your y-intercept is, or you can use your calculator, right? Second trace 1 and so forth. For these ones, right, if there's no context, then what's my domain? All real numbers, right? X would be all real numbers, or infinity to positive infinity. Okay. My range will depend. It'll be y is greater than something if it's pointing up, or y is less than a number if the curve points down. So that's the standard way of doing your domain and range there. I will say that you should be comfortable, right, using the quadratic formula. To solve, right, find roots, etc. Solve by graphing if you need to. Solve by graphing, by a graphing method. There is no question that asks you to graph a quadratic that won't have a word problem associated with it. But if you had to graph an equation that doesn't have a word problem around it, you would use all 4 quadrants, right? So you got to make sure you understand that. It just happens to be the case, right? On the exam or a further test, I could include just the equation, graph it, right? All 4 quadrants would be included there. So just keep that in mind. That's it for this section. And here's the, right, word problems. Right? Equation is provided. Graph should only be, right? Graph usually confined to quadrant 1 and maybe 4. So you would have, if it's something like this, and you have time versus height, let's say, you should know that this x-intercept is when the ball hits the ground. This is your vertex, right? That's the maximum height, right? Vertex. Vertex, right? Gives you the maximum height. Max height is found there in this case. It could be maximum profit, maximum height, it's whatever, but it's found in the vertex. So make sure you state, make sure you do that. This is the initial height. If the equation is provided, you want, right, plot 1 turned off. Okay. You want plot 1 turned off if the equation is provided. Otherwise, it will conflict with whatever is happening. Whatever you have in plot 1, it will not work, right? Try zoom fit, right? Then adjust as needed. Ideally, I wouldn't want you to use zoom fit. Ideally, I would just want you to look at what's happening, right? You graph it, you see one leg, you're like, oh yeah, I need to extend to the x max, I need to decrease my y min, my x min, all of that. But just remember, some of you don't, this would be your x max, this side is x min, right? This is y max, and the bottom is determined by y min, right? That's your window. And so you need to make sure you understand that. For domain and range, there should be no infinity, right? No round brackets, no round brackets. Smallest first, largest second, right? So this is just an aside here. Like that. What else can I say about that? Show keystrokes, right? Show keystrokes for everything. I don't think I need to write that down. It's just a given. Okay, that's it for word problems. Then you have your regressions. And you're going to have one of each type on the test. 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, guaranteed. So you just need to make sure you're quite fluent, you're quite fast at like what needs to be done, right? Boom, boom, boom. You need to identify what's happening. Okay. So you have your type 0, type 0, type 1, type 2, and type 3, right? Points given, right? Points are given. Here you have profit or revenue type of scenarios, and this would be fencing. And type 3 is story, find third point. Okay, that's extremely important that you find the third point there. I will try to focus on the third one here for now. And if this one, it goes without saying, everything is provided. You just go ahead and plug in the values and find the equation. You literally don't have to do much thinking there. Can I just say something here? Turn plot 1 on. Turn plot 1 on for this one. I will say try zoom stat, right? Adjust accordingly. Right? So try zoom stat, then adjust window. That's what I would say. Zoom stat is most likely just going to give you a very, very partial view of the curve. And sometimes it may even look like a straight line, but it should have a little bit of a curve to it. And then you adjust accordingly, all right? X min, Y min should definitely be something in the negatives, right? Something in the negatives, -4, 5, -10. Kind of base it on what you have, right? What do you have on your window? And there you go. So story, right? You may have a story. Let's say this is distance and this is height, and you're kicking. A rocket is launched, let's say, right? And so it goes like this. And I will put the dots that are given to us. I'll use pencil, and then the third one I'll use something like a marker or something. So, right, if it's on the ground, we know this is 0, 0. Don't underestimate the power of 0, 0. It's very powerful, that point, right? It helps you a lot. Then I might say that after 5 meters, the rocket, right, reaches 100 an altitude, a height of 100. Okay? So you must somehow find that one. Okay, that's your third point. And again, it basically in this case would just make all that you would need to do there is times it by 2, right? Because if it takes 5 to get to the middle, it'll take another 5 to get to that point across. So it'd be 10. 10 what? 0. I think when you were doing the board work, you were getting the times 2 right, but you were not getting that height right. It didn't match what you had to start with. Okay? And in this case, the third point is actually where the story ends. Right? The story kind of ends when it hits the ground. And so in that case, all 3 points are within your domain and range. But what if you have this scenario? distance, let's go distance and height, because I don't want to always use time and height, okay? You know what? If I gave you every single thing to remember, you might as well just go to the book, right? But remember I said, let's go meters. I do want the units, the province wants the units, right? So height in meters, distance in meters, it could be yards, feet, whatever. So let's say this rocket is launched off of a platform or higher off the ground, and it goes like this. And so let's say this question gives you the initial point, gives you the maximum height, and you need to find the third point. Where is that third point going to be? Across from where you started, always. So if this is 0, 10, and this would be, let's change this a little bit, this would be 4, 120, because you're higher off, right? You're going to have a greater altitude. So the third point will be across. Always say, hey, where do I start? The third point is here. That's my third point. The 2 points where you use it, if you're using the axis of symmetry, they have to be right across each other. So earlier was 0, 0. I come back to 0. You start at 10. You're going to come back to 10, right? For sure. And in this case, you just multiply your x value here by 2 to get that 8, 10. Okay? And now you have 3 points to come up with your equation. However, it doesn't mean that the story ends here. This is just you used symmetry to find a third point along the trajectory. And now you can actually tell me how far away from the launch pad will this rocket land. You could actually find that, right? So it's actually anything afterwards, it's just back to the word problem with the equation given, right? You just have to work a little bit to get your equation. And so make sure that you also realize that if you found 10, 0 here, and then later on I ask you like how far did the rocket land from the launching pad, and it's already there, and you get a full mark for it, you probably did something wrong with your setup, right? Like if it's too easy, go back to your original setup. Maybe the point was actually here, not here, okay, that you found. Maybe it was more like this, not like that. So keep that in mind. Domain and range, it goes without saying. Type 2, I'm gonna, right? You need to have your sketch ready. Let's say it's something like this. So you have length, width, right? So what you need to do is, like you need to figure out your perimeter, 2L plus 3W. And then P will usually be given, right? So you need to isolate L, okay? I'm gonna write that out next, but I'm gonna say basically 2L stays on the right side, the 3W comes over, so it's P minus 3W. Then in this case I have to divide by 2, right? So L is P minus 3W over 2. Just make sure you do that first, right? And then you make your table, and that I promise you that all of them have like some sort of table started for you. You just have to fill it in. Right? So assign values, right? And then plug it in, right? You will use this to come up with, and you need to do 3 of them, 3 iterations, and then go from there. The profit type, I'm quite certain that you're okay with those. I've seen, from what I've seen, right? What should I say there? I'm just gonna say first point is given. First point is given. Like they'll say at $5 you sell 1,000 donuts or whatever, or breakfast sandwiches. Right? And when you touch one, it changes the other, right? So there's like an inverse relationship. One has to go down, the other one goes up, right? So this would be price per, this would be items, and this is profit. And then you just fill that in. By the way, this is always L2. Always, right? Same with this one here. This one, when you have 3 columns, the last one is always L2. Read the question as to which one are you supposed to put into L1. Is it asking you come up with the equation that relates the length and the area, then you know this is L1. Over here, if I asked you, hey, relate the item sold to the profit, then you know this goes into L1. Okay? So you just have to read carefully and go from there. I don't have any previous units in this one because quadratics usually takes up a lot of, like there's a lot to cover. So I don't have any chapter 8, like the measurement and conversion in this, on this test. It's just quadratics. Okay, that's all you have to worry about. Is there anything else? Well, what I'm going to tell you now is I'm just going to show you where you can get all your review materials from, and I'm sure most of you already know and have tried it. You just got to go to Google Classroom, right? That's where it's at. So this will not be on the video, but I just go here, Google Classroom, classwork. So test review keys is right here. The whiteboard activity that we started on Friday, the key is here. If you didn't finish that, I would strongly encourage you to finish that 3rd type in the back that you started on the board. But here are all the test reviews, and I have the page numbers on there. Right? So I'm just going to say pages 86 to 91 is just a test review in general. And then pages 92, that's a good one. 92 to 95, all types, all 4 types review. So if you feel like you need help with just the regressions, then 92 to 95 is where you want to go right now. And I would actually say, let's start there and then review all the other vertex form, general form, all of that stuff later on. And if you want in particular some more domain and range review, just go to page 47 if you want to practice your domain and range, because I will ask you that more than once to come up with your domain and range. So we really need you to get a grasp on that before grade 12 for sure. Okay. So that concludes my part. I'm going to give you like the rest of the class to do what you need to do. I don't always do that, but you fill in your study sheet. You know what? If all else, just start working on something that is in the review pile. Just work through it. Start that. And I'm just going to ask you this. You go to your very front page here, and I would just say test checklist, sorry, on page 80. So let's say you're reviewing for the exam, and you're like, where? There was a checklist somewhere. If you have it right in the front, I actually did that on my original booklet here, and I was able to quickly go to it. And now I have enough stuff to review. That's it. That's all. Make sure you stay on task, okay? Your phones can wait. All right.